Hello, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Press TV's Top 5. And I will begin with the U.S.-led coalition having confirmed that its airstrikes in Syria and Iraq have killed another 16 civilians. Coalition said in a statement civilian deaths were unintentional. Now, these deaths bring to 817 the number of civilians confirmed by the coalition to be killed in its strikes over the past 3 years. Monitoring groups, however, say the number is much higher and grossly understated. U.S.-led coalition claims it's been conducting air raids against Daesh targets in Syria and Iraq since 2014, but facts on the ground show civilians have been the main victims of such aerial bombardments. Joining us out of Leesburg for more of the story now is Mr. Mike Billington from the Asia Desk of the Executive Intelligence Review. Hello, Mr. Billington. Nice to have you back on the program, sir. Now, your thoughts, does it seem like in this part of the world, civilian casualties really are not a factor when it comes to the West and their allies?
Well, there's no way to speculate on how many have been killed. You know, this is something that is going to be used by both sides for propagandistic reasons. There's no reason to believe any of the estimates. What's far more important, you're going to have lots of civilian deaths when you have a policy of basically bombing ISIS out of these civilian areas. There's no way to avoid it. There's no way to excuse it, but you're dealing here with a policy which is necessarily going to lead to a lot of civilian deaths. What's far more important is the question of what's going to happen now that ISIS has largely been defeated. The Russians, of course, were invited into Syria and intend to withdraw a large number of their troops, but to remain in a couple of their bases in order to assure that there's no return of ISIS to the areas that have been liberated by the Syrian government. The U.S. was not invited and is claiming that they're going to stay there. The neoconservative crowd, which does not necessarily, definitely does not include President Trump, but the neoconservative crowd that is swarming around President Trump are insisting that the U.S. will stay there until they get a satisfactory resolution of the political situation, which in their mind means removing Assad. That's not going to happen.
But did that happen, really quick, I don't want to cut you off, but did that exact thing happen in Iraq? They wanted Saddam out the way. He was gone. He was hanged. They wanted weapons of mass destruction. They were never found, but the U.S. forces are still on Iraqi soil to this day. So even if Assad leaves, there's no guarantee the U.S. forces will leave. What's Washington's end game, and why does it want to remain in Syria?
Quite the opposite. If they were, in fact, to remove Assad, the country would be turned over to warring terrorist factions, as it was in Libya and in Iraq. I don't believe Trump is going to allow that to happen, but there are people around him, some of his military, some of the neocon forces still within the intelligence community and so forth, who would push for that. But what's more important is that we have Trump committed to working with Russia. And just today, they repeated, Rex Tillerson repeated, that our collaboration with Russia, especially in Syria, is extremely important. And it is. And in fact, that's why Trump is under attack for this Russiagate nonsense, this lie. The same people that ran the attack against myself and against Lyndon LaRouche back in the 1980s, Robert Mueller and British intelligence-linked forces within our intelligence community, are now trying to run a coup against the United States precisely because Trump insists that America and Russia and China should be allies, not enemies, that should work together, we should be friends. And Syria proves the point. Now, the question of where we're going to go from here, it's an internal fight within the United States, whether or not Trump is going to be able to have his way. He does not have complete control over the military or the intelligence community. And as you see by the fact that people in both parties and especially the Obama intelligence community are out to destroy this government, to bring down the United States government. A coup against the United States government carried out by people within our own intelligence community. So this is a very, very serious fight. Precisely that collaboration between Trump and Putin, which is crucial as to whether or not we're going to end the reign of terror that was launched by Bush and continued by Obama in the Middle East with these criminal wars against Iraq and Libya and Syria. So we're close to winning. The point is that, in fact, Russia's intervention succeeded in defeating ISIS. And the fact that Trump collaborated with Russia cooperated meant that, in fact, there was U.S.-Russian cooperation, not joint military operations, which would have been useful, but that was not allowed in the U.S., but at least cooperation in making sure that the main target was ISIS and not more regime change as we had under Bush and Obama.
We're all out of time. I want to thank you for joining us for your input. Mr. Mike Billington out of Leesburg.